This Friday morning, we want to get straight out to Glendale, where police are talking live right now, giving an update on a situation. I'm Emily Pritchard alongside Joe Dana. Let's listen in.
He was firing several rounds towards our officers. At that point, officers were beginning to tell neighbors to shelter in place. We were going to begin the evacuation process, but that never occurred. All the neighbors in the area were told to shelter in place. The SWAT team was called out to the scene. When SWAT officers arrived, the suspect began firing several rounds at SWAT officers. I can tell you that there was an exchange of gunfire between the officers as well as the suspect. At that time, no one was injured or hurt that we were aware of. That exchange of gunfire continued until after midnight, and the suspect once again started firing at officers. Two of our officers returned fire and critically injured the suspect. We then sent in a canine to safely remove the suspect from the scene. He was then transferred to a local hospital. I can tell you that he has been through surgery. He is expected to live, and we will be taking him into custody. Once our officers were able to safely enter the residence, we found one person deceased inside the residence. I can tell you that individual is a 48-year-old male, and he is believed to be the father of the suspect in this situation. Again, we only have one individual in custody, and we do have one individual that is deceased on the scene. This is very early on in the investigation. As you can imagine, those details could become a little bit different as we start talking to more witnesses and gather more information. But again, the folks here in this area, they do not need to be concerned with their own personal safety, because we do believe this to be an isolated incident. And I'll take questions when you guys are done.
What can you tell us about the suspect, the age? Was there any type of history? Was there any type of history between the father and son where you guys had been called out?
We have not had any kind of prior incidents as far as the suspect and the victim here in this situation. The suspect is a 26-year-old male. And again, we don't have any prior history with him and the victim in this, but this suspect is now facing charges of homicide, aggravated assault, and attempted murder of a police officer.
You mentioned reports of a stabbing. Are you able to say?
You've been listening there to an update from Glendale, where overnight it sounds like a domestic violence situation involving Glendale police. And we have one person reported dead in a house and a relative in custody who was shot during what appeared to have been some type of a confrontation with officers. The good news, it sounds like no officers were injured. And we'll get back out to Jen in a little bit with more information.
And police updating that suspect who was in custody underwent surgery overnight and is expected to make a recovery and is in custody at the hospital. But of course, that is a very fluid situation. We just heard live there from Glendale Police. Jen's monitoring it. We'll be back with her in just a moment.